Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and to the public. Welcome to tonight's council meeting. Apologies. Do you have any apologies? Declarations of interest. So those are the declarations of interest made by members in connection with any agenda item. Members to specify the nature of the interest, must receive any written requests for dispensations and to grant any requests for dispensation as appropriate.
Yes, I'd like to declare an interest as the Hythe Pier owner relating to the Hythe Ferry.
Thank you very much. So wait.
Loosely connected to the same subject, I am the council's representative on the HDHA. Obviously, have to be interested.
Thank you very much. Any other declarations of interest? Okay, thank you. Community safety update. So, the police are perhaps we can write to them saying we appreciate the busy, but if it's going to be a bit report, thank you very much. And hopefully you've all had the ACSO report, are familiar with that, and you just confirm your notices. Okay. Thank you very much. So, the minutes of the last council meeting held the 25th of March. I'm just going to go through each 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not going to try and match up the numbers in the pack. Like I've lost. So, page 1. I found up in Councillor Wade, yes.
Just a point to note, item 42226, just for clarification, the notes for the district were put under the council report, the notes for the council and the district report, just for information.
Thank you very much, I'm sure.
The council arguments.
So we've got all the way down page 1. Any other? No? Page 2? Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. And the final page, page 7. And can I have someone vote? Okay, can I have a second? All those in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. To the main event, announcements from the chair. So, before that would right. So, on standing orders 3E of this council, members of the public may make representation, answer questions, and give evidence in respect of business on the agenda. Accordingly, I move that standing orders be suspended to allow the name of Sir Alan Williams, right? To address the council on the agenda item number 10, which is the Hythe. This is in accordance with the General Council's powers to regulate its own proceedings under Schedule 12 of the Local Government Act 1972 and its general powers of competence under the Localism Act of 2011. I've had enough. Thank you very much. Can we have a vote if everyone in favour? Okay, thank you. So, standing orders are now suspended. Can I invite Alan to speak to the council?
I'm Alan. Hi. I lived in Hythe for 5 years. And as we all know, there's a agenda item down Ferry, and very probably not a huge amount of occasion. And like everyone, the thing is waiting with bated breath and fingers crossed and hoping that something might happen. And now that the owners have said, that's it, we're not doing this, I'm sitting there thinking, well, okay, we've lost a chance, but what's anyone going to do about it? And thinking, well, maybe I can do something about it. So that led me to drop a note to a few of the councillors here, just saying, look, I'm just a concerned citizen, and I think that maybe there's some opportunities now for the community, because when the ferry was possibly going to come back, it's almost a simple hands to see what's going to happen. Now that they've made a decision, if no one does anything, nothing's going to happen. So it's now in the community's hands as to what they might want to do about it. And I dropped folks on the council a note saying that, could I come along and have a chat? Because, like lots of people, I've got ideas and thoughts on what could happen, what could be done. But I know nothing about what we talked about, and what might already have been progressed or not, as the case may be. So I had a conversation with Malcolm Ashley yesterday. I've written down lots of notes, but they're all ill-informed and just like these. But talking about the concept of creating a vision for what a sort of waterborne transport solution would be on the site. And when I say waterside, we've got top of the waterside, but actually there's Southampton Water, there's two sides to it. And in part, that's what the ferry is there. It's actually uniting those two sites. And so, the conversation with Malcolm Ashley yesterday, I'm very conscious that a lot of the council don't have bandwidth, and is it necessarily their responsibility to come up with a solution? And unless someone else is articulating what the vision could be and what could be done, then nothing's going to happen. So, my sort of offer and proposal is that I can come up with some draft straw man of what a vision could be of the waterside sort of plan, including the ferry, but then looking at outcomes that look at social impact, business impact, economic impact, environmental impact, to create something which could be motivational for funders, be they local government, national government, NGOs, philanthropists, private funding, and corporates who maybe have an agenda around CSR. That there's then something where one can then create a plan of action over how we're going to move forward. And it could be that that plan is go and talk to people about where some funding might come from, but inspired by this vision, which gives something to touch and feel. And potentially with a number of phases, because in the first instance, there's how can we restore what was there and improve on it, but where do we go from there? Thinking about it, about how big it is, community across the entire and so the offer was why you come along tonight, talk to the rest of the council, and I'll quickly tell you about my profile. I have no expertise in this at all. My background is almost 4 decades in retail financial services, a lot of business change and projects. I've been a marketing director, a commercial director, and have created strategies for startup organisations for regulatory approval. And over the past few years, I stopped working full time, but now I do a lot of volunteer stuff. I sit on a number of boards of charities, doing sort of ocean research work, a community bank, conservation charity, and I also work as a volunteer for the Southern Seascape Project, which is about coastal restoration. And other than how we sort of able to look at Southampton Water, and there's a bit of restoration there. So, for me, it's something that I feel that while I can bring the technical sort of framework and discipline around creating a vision plan, which ultimately one would then be talking to a lot of other people about inputs, criticisms, additional ideas and such. But also trying to come up with a solution and make it have an impact is something that motivates me and I motivate as a council. I think that's it. That's the sort of the brief pitch. So, any questions, thoughts, ideas, just forward.
Chairman, as I'm one of the two that suggested having come to talk to the council. If we get out in the council bubble a minute and go back to somewhere we're looking for a project and you want to do something, first of all, we want to know where you want to get to. What does the end game look like? Now, it's no secret existing business model of the ferry is not sustainable. It doesn't make it doesn't pay for itself. So it needs a new type of model. Now, was it last year we had somebody come to talk about water taxis?
Peter Key.
Yeah. Now, the future may well be a business model based on that. And how can we, first of all, we need to have vision and we need to have a project that people will want to invest in. Now, it could be commercial project, or it could be a charitable company. But you have to have something to start with. Now, Alan has a skill set to be able to produce a vision, to bring to us, and then what we do with it. And you know, I'm sure you may well have some ideas about that, and the council have some ideas. But the council can't run a ferry, we know that. It's not what councils do, certainly what parish councils do. But we can talk about it, but somebody's offering to give us a vision to look at what the future would be like that would excite third parties to get involved. Because for the ferry to be sustainable in the future, it needs investment. It needs money. And it needs something that people want to invest in, because either A, it will make a return, or B, it will at the very least pay for itself. So we need a new model. And we need somebody with the time and expertise to be able to come up with something like that and bring it to us. I fully support what Alan wants to do, because this is giving us a skill set we have, and it gives us a way forward that may well bring back the ferry that we all want back, ferry service we all want back to Ireland.
Sorry, Councillor Webster.
I'm Ben Webster, very interested in the ferry. Was a very keen user of the ferry, involved in lots of the discussions around. Sorry, you didn't know that. Have you all been discussed it with anybody else apart from Malcolm and Asher? Your ideas, like HBHA, Southampton City Council, Red Funnel. So I don't really feel on the spot. It's just
No, I haven't talked to anyone else.
right.
Partly because, what I did was, I looked at the New Forest plans, and the ferry and Franklin Heights don't feature
In any of them, sorry.
the New Forest plans, their corporate plan, and various development plans. And when I then started looking at, because there's across Hampshire and Southampton, Solent, New Forest, there's all sorts of bankers and bodies who potentially can help. So Malcolm made reference to some parties that he's written to over the years, and including ministers and that, so you either get nothing or they've got other things going on. The idea behind the vision is having something which is compelling and attractive to funding, which is nothing to do with the public sector, because anything in the public sector has lots of pressures. And the way I see this kind of thing working, once you've got a vision, is you find a few cornerstone backers behind it. I think an aspect is about finding potentially commercial, multiple commercial sponsors who would underwrite what you're doing. So you ultimately need to get some cash flow to get things off the ground. And the confidence to be able to go for it rather than tinker, so you can build your cash flow. Because as Malcolm says, the ambition is that it's at minimum cost neutral, potentially generating surplus, but it might also be that there is no way to ever make a profit or surplus, but that there's so many other outcomes that funders of it are quite happy to absorb that cost. Around the world, there's a lot of philanthropy, but it's really hard to keep it, to get it in the first instance, but also maintain it, because you need to be demonstrating the outcomes that you're producing. And those outcomes are very much about social, I don't think which aspects, but there's social growth, there's inclusion, there's equal opportunity, And then there's the environmental side as well. And it just feels to me like the ferry has the potential to be that bit in the middle, which attracts so much interest on so many different agendas. And once you've got some sort of cornerstone factors there, you could find that governmental goes on, those bodies or whatever, would be more interested in supporting it when they see that actually there is support. Because they're looking to justify with their proposals. And if you've got evidence to show us that what you're doing is having an impact and creating outcomes, then whereas I think the challenge at the moment is we've got a public transportation service which is stopped because it's not space. It requires investment, and people sort of people get buses to use the car. It's a challenging thing. Whereas if you can make it inspirational and then you get some different funders, then maybe but in a way you want to try and have it as an organisation where you're not reliant on what can be very fickle.
Councillor Dan.
Thank you very much for your presentation this evening. I think one of the biggest concerns that we have as councillors is the gap between it stopping and the potential, however vague it might be, of the mayor for the Hampshire and Solent area taking it on as a transport project. And it doesn't take that long for things to kind of disappear out of sight because then, there's no interest around them. So I think to explore that, and even just to do that, is enough to keep it in everyone's minds and to keep the idea that the ferry could come back in some form. So I think if that's all it achieves, actually that's a positive. My concern with it being entirely private sector is that we would have a repeat of the last few times where it's got somewhere and then it's gone back again. So I was hope we would have, given it's it's the King George III walk, it's the cycle infrastructure. I would hope that would shape some of the councils that should be funded into supporting it in some way. So some kind of public-private partnership, I think, is probably the best way forward. It may not be the most achievable way forward, but that's one that I would, if I had the choice, that's the one I would look at, because I think you're absolutely right. Expecting entirely public funding is not going to happen, but certainly to have some assistance. As we know, the county council gets government money for public transport. They understand it as being buses and not the whole gamut of public transport, which is tunnel vision there. But I think if we're able to keep that idea alive and keep people's interest in it in the meantime, then I think there's more chance of a partnership happening in due course. So I think it's it's something that is very timely, if nothing else. So thank you for that.
Thanks a lot. What's waiting?
Knocking on the door or speaking to people is still the most common subject on the door. LGR comes up a lot. You have to press that. You don't have to press for people on high ferry. I would completely echo what my law partner, Dad, also represent the centre on a public-private mix, because you might have seen Hive in it, but NSBC refers to heritage, tourism, and local economy heavily in its local plan, and we recently commented a lot as a parish on that. And the local businesses suffered from the ferry. Businesses have dropped significantly from Southampton tourism, including from the German cruise ships, and also heritage route as well. All in addition to the points you made. Any council who wants to focus on sustainability from a cynical perspective to protect their unfunded roads, also while there are planned roadworks which will cause significant inconvenience to our community moving forward. And even on the well, promotion otherwise, 20 or 23 times, you'll get at least 300 people going there and back and beyond the football. That's an opportunity, there's people off the road. And there is easily links between the corporate plans of all councils with regards to providing a ferry service that doesn't rely on roads, doesn't rely on traffic, isn't impacted by utilities closing roads. There is a bit of, there's still lots of people who want it back, there's still lots of belief, there's a bit of resignation among some, but there is a big piece of, there's water there, soon there, it's never not going to be impossible. And while you could wait and have a favourable mayor transport on the rise, I agree that it has to be kept in the hearts and minds, and at least I completely support anything to push going. I do think it's important to engage with all the stakeholders involved at the moment, not maybe out to the public to make there are varied ownerships around the clear area too, and obviously the train, which all matter to people heavily. So engaging all interested stakeholders is vital and important. But I do think that any council, I agree with you, it's like shaming council, we do it all the time, but it is to their benefit to get another opportunity for sustainable transport, and we will support.
Right, so we'll pass over to Councillor Clark in a moment, but just to bear in mind, we have got an agenda item which is discussing the ferry, and I don't want this to morph into that. So this was really about Alan to give his presentation. So I'm going to have two more speakers.
No, I'll wait until we make some points.
Okay, so the final speaker for the moment is Councillor Wade.
Well, Chairman, I was actually going to ask that we graciously thank Alan for coming, and graciously again accept his proposal to go away and look at doing a concept in design. So that is a fairly description of what we're doing.
It's design over exit, but
Yeah.
and draft.
A draft, yes, a draft, because it is often to do this, design that. It's something that having an end game, what we're trying to achieve, whether we go through commercial or private sector, is very important. And we need to look at something different to what we had before. And I think Alan is suggesting you're going to look at some option, and then what we do with it is really down to us, isn't it? But we will have something we didn't have before. So I think that we should accept the offer, but if Alan very excited to go and do this and bring it back. If you're happy to do that, that's my proposal.
I just want to just the guidance from sure. Perhaps we can invite Alan onto the very working group, can we?
Absolutely, yes.
So then we can at least
That's it. You can do that.
shape you into the process.
Yeah, and that's sort of things I was going to ask in terms of where one goes, because actually, on a personal basis, yesterday saying that she'd be happy to be reviewer, work with me, she'll have insights. But then also beyond that, what's the appropriate mechanism? It sounds like that.
I know the working group exists and I'm on it and I'm not officially back to maternity leave, blah, 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 so.
That means you can be my side of the fence.
As I work with the neighbours, the council, who seek expertise, bring all sorts of working through. So that would be, I should guess that's the way we do it.
Although I said Councillor Clark was the last speaker, I will relent.
No,
Councillor Wade.
it was really because Mark basically said what I said. I was going to propose that we invite Mr. Williams to the next council taskman finish group for the ferry and brings his workings and we discuss it there.
You are great minds think alike. I'm sure there was many business reviews exactly the same thing. So, Alan, thank you for bringing this to us. I hope you do join the ferry working group. And it'll be two-way process. You'll get to see what's going on. So, can I thank you for coming? And I'd like to reinstate Alan Knowles.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alan, thank you.
Right.
So, announcements from the chair. So, answers from the chair are just, I'm sure, hopefully, sure or in because in our emails we've been getting, we've seen on the bottom that of administration officer is this weekend actually doing a marathon for
I'll think about it.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
me.
Oh, you are just.
Yeah, it's just big virtuality.
Yeah.
But a very, very, very cause of Alzheimer's. So we wish you Godspeed on your marathon. If you haven't sponsored, look at your email tag and you'll see there's a link to the given, sorry. Okay, thank you very much. That's my only announcement. I'm going to just jiggle things around a bit. I'd like to just go to the public forum. Are there any written questions for letters?
No, Chairman.
Are there any? Sir, do you wish to address the council?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it doesn't. Look at the council.
Members, what I'd like actually to do is to move the agenda item that I've carried as to be the next item. So, can I have your agreement that we move the agenda?
Yeah, so close.
Thank you very much. Also, I'd like to tentatively put a limit of 20 minutes on the discussion. I'm not trying to quash the discussion. There are items to deal with, and we have occupied where we pass information to. So really, actually, this is sort of like focus we're going to move forward. So, the agenda item is to discuss the recent announcements of Hyde Southampton Ferry companies who went into the correct system of voluntary liquidation. At this point, I'd like to thank the Vice Chair Council Clark because we actually need to fix with the liquidators, and you should have read the email where it's produced a very succinct or paints a very clear picture of the way forward. So basically, the floor is open. Do we have any questions?
Well, it was a question, I was spoken to Conrad at length yesterday, well, the day before, about it. It was the clarification that what was in the sale and what isn't. And he was very clear about the fact that I realised that the vessel wasn't chartered, it's outright owned, and maybe not a bad thing if there is a new process coming on. Obviously, the link bridge it's attached here, but it's not the same. And so all of those issues that we gathered together and asked questions about were, I think, put reasonably. There were a lot of questions that Conrad wasn't able to answer. I mean, he is there just to dispose of the assets. Obviously, he said that redundancy had occurred and that people were let go, which is very sad. So any new operator would need to re-engage with staff, offer new jobs, etc. But that, as far as that was concerned, that's over. One thing that he wasn't able to answer was about the lease from Red Funnel on Pier, which was but he couldn't answer that because he said you have to go and talk to Red Funnel, which is if they're not going to run a ferry from there, then does the lease terminate? And I can only go back to Anthony on that one. You may have some answers, I don't know, but I've tried to include as much as possible. Now, secondly, that Hilco, who are the actual agents on this, I did make a phone call today and said, would you be able to talk to me? And they said yes, but they would prefer to talk after any expression of interest to be made on the 1st of May. They weren't prepared to, because they had sent some documentation through.
Yeah.
I did make clear that we could answer that because a freedom of information request may come in, and that would sort of trump, if you like, an NDA. So we don't sign an NDA if it's an FOI, we trump that. They recognised that. They said, well, you're not in the process of buying the stuff, are you? No, we're not, which is trying to gain interest as a local authority. And then they said, well, let's leave it until after which things will become clearer, much clearer, because there are expressions. He said they had received some expressions of interest. He didn't tell me who they were, but he did say some expressions of interest were on the way, but they hadn't crystallised, which I hopefully put there. That's it.
Councillor Webster.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Just a very quick point on the Freedom of Information Act has clauses in it, especially for this kind of circumstance, and I don't think actually it is correct to say that an FOI request will trump the NDA. In fact, you can look it up, take some advice, and we should just assume that is the case. Anyway, but whether that gets us anywhere, I don't know. There are some key questions which we do need to know the answer to. So what is the future of the pier lease, which is not in the sale? What is the future of the pontoon, which is fine for anyone who wants to use the ferry and use the pier? And what is the future of the landing berth at Town Quay, which it wasn't clear from you, sorry, but I don't know if the liquidators were able to say, is that berth owned by AVP? Is it leased to Red Funnel? That is the case, all right, okay, but what happens?
So that's not in the sale.
It's not in the sale. No. So, what happens to that access? Does anyone wanting to operate the ferry need to have access at Town Quay? It's all specially adapted to take the ferry routes. The other key thing is that vessel. I don't know what value it leads to anyone else. I think it's great value to the Hythe ferry because it's especially adapted to operate the Hythe ferry. So if anyone else wants to operate and they don't have a vessel, it's going to make another hurdle to actually starting the service. It's going to add to the cost. So we're in a kind of crisis position here of needing certain maps. If there is a vision, we don't want the assets to disappear and that vision to be even harder to deliver. But we are very fortunate to have actually this map. So can you help with any of these questions?
That is my question to the chair. Am I allowed to answer any of the questions in my capacity as peer owner?
Yeah, but
I do have some answers.
my view is that we're not making the decisions, discussions. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you will do that.
Okay, fine. So my first point, to Mark, you've mentioned the link span.
Yeah.
We as in the pier and ferry people, we call, you've got the pier, the very end of the pier, walkway down to the pontoon. If that is the piece you mean, that does not belong to the pier.
Right.
It is not an asset of the pier.
I did ask Birmingham-based Conrad, and he said,
Yeah.
"I've got no water around here, so I don't know."
No, so I am understanding that the Hythe and Southampton Ferry Company as an asset has the link span walkway down to and including the pontoon. Okay, so that's the first one that we should double check, but that the pier doesn't own it. For me personally, the next question then I think was on the Red Funnel lease. So the pier lease is with Red Funnel directly, not the Hythe and Southampton Ferry Company. Therefore, the lease still exists and it's not going into liquidation. Okay, so Red Funnel are up to date on paying their rent on the lease, and I've had it verbally confirmed that they will be giving the notice. They have to give me notice in line with the lease, and they have said that they will be doing that. But I haven't had anything in writing, and I certainly haven't had notice yet. It's too early. So that is, and I know some of us haven't had a great relationship response with Red Funnel, but I, in my capacity as the peer owner, have had open communications and they've always said what they were going to do. So obviously I don't know if they have a different idea, different plan, but at the moment I believe the lease will come to an end. And on that note, that is the peer's only income. So it's quite well, actually that's a lot because we've just opened. It's up the one of two incomes we have, pier tolls and rental income. That's all we have. So it's not a huge amount of money that's, you know, scary money, but it's a chunk of money that enabled us to replace the electrics this year. Does anybody else have any other questions that I missed on that? So I obviously noticed the time as well. Yes.
The piling.
The piling, that's it. So that belongs to the pontoon. So the piles, the pontoon and the link span walkway is all an asset of the High Ferry as far as I'm aware.
It's not being mentioned then.
Well, they probably should package it in pontoon, I think, but somebody should possibly clarify that. The pontoon is the floating pontoon and the piles are what attaches it. So I think it's all as one.
Conrad certainly was answered.
Yeah, it really the valuers that you need to speak to, which yeah.
I need to speak to next week.
Yeah.
So then we can ask for the survey of what they've done, the pontoon and the
From their plan.
and the piling. Going forward, Mike, have we?
Yeah, any other questions from me? Can I word on it? Yeah.
But if they're giving notice on the lease, effectively, does that mean a new organisation or interested party could have one and then be responsible for the assets and the access to the ferry? What, if any, controls does Red Funnel have once they give up the lease?
No, as far as I'm aware, once the lease is done, Red Funnel, they don't have any legal attachments anymore. So if there's a new company, so at the moment, all the assets are going through liquidation. So there could be another company trying to purchase a pontoon, trying to purchase a boat. I don't know. If there isn't, and nothing happens, there will be the pier with a broken pontoon and a redundant ferry.
So it's Councillor Webster, Councillor Wade, Councillor Jones.
Oh, just, Mark's note said that, you were interested in time to, or a nominal, something like a low sum.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What's your sort of plan? If assuming that, you know, the Red Funnel does give the pier lease back or terminate these.
Yeah.
What's your vision? What do you want to do?
We might pick this up in another meeting, but very quickly, I want to put the pieces back together because when it was the High Ferry under Lee Raymond, all of the pieces were together. He owned the train, he owned the pontoon, he owned the boat, he owned the pier. So it doesn't work as it is at the moment. It's very messy. So one, I would like to put the pieces back together. Two, I own a pier with no pontoon. So I own a pier, and if I had a boat, which I don't, but I can't put my boat in the pier. Not that I want to do that. You know what I mean? So I just want the only landing stage to my pier is ultimately what I'm trying to achieve. But part in my role as when I worked for the High Ferry, I was also working with Marchwood Military Port to come up with a solution to fix and repair the pontoon. I can pick up any questions on that at the time.
Well, these are actually my questions. Thank you. That's really helpful. But is the idea behind purchasing the pontoon to first stage putting those assets together, or what are you envisaging doing with what sort of services? I mean, obviously you're going to need to generate some revenue.
Yeah.
Some run something, run your own business.
So because the High Ferry, under whichever company you look at, has operated the whole site.
Yeah.
So they've been the key holders to the pier and they've run the whole site. You can see the condition of the pier. So my idea would be the pier company, in whichever way that looks, but the pier runs itself under a pier management. So you walk in the gates, that is, you pay your pier toll, you get to the very end. If you get in on the ferry, you pay your money down there and you get on the ferry. So it's two completely different things. You're coming to either the pier to visit and walk the pier, and then if you want to go down to the ferry, you obviously get on the ferry from there. Right. That is an idea I have.
That's right. Okay. So you were talking about creating a charity last year. Is that?
So it's only ever this year.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's only ever this year. Possibly.
Yeah. Has that progressed at all?
Not for to anything to talk about, no.
Because did you have any, if you speak to the HPHA, they say the PA needs between 2 and 5 million pounds spent and long term, because it's a floor.
Yeah.
I don't know if you disagree with that, but the only way that could ever be funded is some sort of heritage lottery fund type of body.
Yeah.
But do you have thoughts about that?
Well, yeah, because we've spoken about this before.
Yeah, I mean, what's happening? Because that we were speaking about it 6 months
Things
ago.
are happening. For example, I had a consultation planning team yesterday visit me from NFDC and put me in touch with people that I need to be in touch with. But these things are not quick and easy fixes. So, yeah, like I said, I'm conscious of time,
Yes.
Chairman. So we can pick up this another time.
Well, to be honest, actually, I don't know that we necessarily need to get up another time. This is, as Alex said, nothing more important than the doorstep. The Hythe Ferry working group was only met 3 times, as far as I know, but they didn't really have anything to talk about now that we're in absolute crisis mode. We are 10 days away from the assets being liquidated and lost. Okay. So I don't think, I think the community wouldn't expect us to try and tackle this conversation in 20 minutes. This is about something that's existed for 500 years. So, you know, so if you want to insist on that, then I'm just not going to object. I don't think
That's fine, but what I'm saying is, what you're suggesting and what would be more appropriate is a very soon convenience of the Hythe Ferry working group where you can dedicate more time to it, rather than just that.
And so then if you
does anyone have anything urgent to do tonight? They can't sit around for. That is more important than that. Trying to say
That's not the point.
Well, so if you compare the just let me know, I can find that actually so we've got some solid answers. That might be quite better, so that's all then. I can meet you next week. Tomorrow?
Yeah. Yes. Oh, sorry. The townkeeper. That's. Can you tell us anything at all about this item around the townkeeper?
I don't know about that. Not even in my very role. No, I don't know about that.
You know what Red Farm's intentions are. But you see, you're interested in bringing the pieces together. That's a vital piece.
Yeah.
The high area of land and Southampton and so on. Okay,
Yeah.
so you surely would be interested in that, wouldn't you? I mean, and you just told us, sorry.
No, fancy that.
You just told us
Oh, no.
you have a relationship with Fran. We don't have. She doesn't respond. She's not responded to Sean's email last week, but she does respond to you.
Yes.
So you have a special interest because you've got this together, and you have a special access to Frank.
Yeah.
So I would have thought that's a key question to find out what happens and what's going on with the birth. Because
But it's a key question to who, not me as the parent.
Red Farm.
Yes, but not me as a
and ABP actually. Easy.
So I
Also
should
concerned
find out
with-
later on. I don't know.
Yeah, well, okay, that'd be great if you could. I'll tell you what the concern is, that access could be lost. And that ABP don't really have any interest.
Yeah, absolutely, but because
We need to
it's
start
not a high ferry will have to, whoever operates the ferry.
This is turning into a debate which is what is not needed to be. It was meant to be a discussion. As I say, the Hythe Ferry working group was the forum to answer more of these questions. I'm going to take one final question.
You know, I both say something.
So that's what I just want to say on. So, Councillor Jones.
To be fair, going to cover off some of the big goals in the state. Shall we do a poll tomorrow, Friday, to pick a day next week that Ashley can come to, that we can put together the questions, and and I probably think from our point of view, understand Ashley, whether or not you putting a peer back together doesn't seem to necessarily include having a Hythe Ferry, just the pier and a pontoon, so you can have any staff plan if you want to. That doesn't necessarily mean that you would be wanting to run a Hythe Ferry, but you might allow someone that is like at some point. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so it's trying to organise for this week. Go on, Councillor Wood.
Right, two very important points. The first one is a procedure. Because Ashley owns the pier and also is a councillor,
And they've just been made redundant.
Yeah, what we're going to say is we should look to the France guidance on all areas regarding liability and interest, so that nobody says or does anything out of place, out of turn, because there is a common industry interest here. And I think it's important that we go to the clerk and since it will tell us what we can and cannot do in relation to this discussion. And the second was, there has been a ferry across the Hampton Water way before the pier, way before the pontoon. Right? At the end of the day, what is important to the people of Iron Dibden is not Oxford 7, 8, whatever it is. It's the ferry and getting across. And what that gentleman we had earlier is looking at a vision of what can be in the future. The existing model doesn't work. If someone wants to buy off the boat, well, you know, they want to buy the boat, but I'm finding it very difficult because it's not in service and that's another 60 grand, right? So there's a lot of issues here. No one's going to get by the pontoon and take it away. It's good because it's broken. It needs to be fixed. Let's look at the reality of what we're looking at. So what we really need to support is the vision that Alan can put together and how it may be funded either commercially, semi-commercially, or from private industry. But you've got to have something to start with. And his vision is like a starting point. You know, we can see how it can be taken forward. Because that is neutral and nothing to do with this. It's looking at a purely, almost not business perspective, but a perspective of what would interest other people to invest in it, be that charitable, altruistic, or possibly even commercial or combination thereof. So that's what we've got to think of. We've got to think of the future and how you can get that through.
Okay, so to my point of view, this comes under the auspices of the High Ferry Working Party. So what we need to do is, if it's appropriate, can the High Ferry Working Party group?
We can do that. I understand the sense of urgency. I'll liaise with Ashley tomorrow to see when Ashley is available. And on the back of that, members will be consulted on a date as soon as possible. And my other understanding was that there will be another meeting at High Ferry after that to engage with Alan and to understand. Yeah. So I'll do my best to try and set that next week. Subject to Ashley's availability.
And the chairman's availability.
And the members of the High Ferry party, is it? You know, they might not be done next week because they might availability separately. We will see what's,
that's very well change.
Okay, so we're moving on now.
Sorry, are you calling a halt to High Ferry honest?
Yes.
Right, okay. I'm going to just like to make that. The assets being liquidated next Friday. Sean might not even be able to find a date for the High Ferry working group meeting. There are a few questions and a few possible action points which we could agree tonight. We don't need to wait for the High Ferry working group because everyone who's involved in that group is present in this room now. So there are some questions that I think I propose some action that we could agree now.
The thing is, Ashley needs to get.
Well, as long as they're not just solely for me, we're
No,
not
they're not. They could involve you, but they're not solely for you. No, absolutely not. So can we spend 10 minutes going through those?
10 minutes max. Okay.
Okay. So in terms of what we could do, who we can contact, there's been lots of suggestions that because it's the King Charles Coast path, we should contact Buckingham Palace. I think that what the most likely outcome is, well, the best outcome we could hope for, I think, is purely an expression of support. Nothing else, not financial support. But if we were to ask King Charles to say, there is we could perhaps write this as a parish council, Ashley as a peer, the HPHA could join in, anyone else that we could think could join. The HPHA got the Duke of Gloucester, who's the King's second cousin, to come and open the platform in the end of 2024. So there's a royal connection through the convention. the King's great grandfather travelled on the ferry to visit the D-Day preparations in 1944. Those are things we've been talking about. We simply ask for an expression of support for the community's efforts to restore this wonderful historic quiet link. So it's a small thing, but it would be tremendous even to have a word. Like, we're not asking for money, we're not asking for anything political, we're not asking for, we can now ask for it because he's launched the Coast Path, Seven Sisters, and he needs to be very carefully diplomatically worded, but not accusing him of inaugurating path that isn't actually open. In fact, what he did do. But it might just yield something. I don't know.
How much do you think that could be done? How much you were stressing that time as of the action?
Yes. So I'm suggesting that we, as a council, that we agree tonight that we would write such a letter, but that we actually ask the organisations I mentioned, actually as a peer owner and the HVHA to sign it too. And I'm very interested in who else might sign it. Local people like Lord Montague, Mr. Burnett. Anyone who's actually expressed interest.
Are you suggesting creating an open letter?
Not an open letter, no, it would be a letter from the three bodies I've mentioned. We could lead on it as a parish council. We don't have that will be important because we don't have any commercial interest in the ferry. We're only there as a community.
I think that's a really good idea. I really do think that's a brilliant idea that I've come up with. And I can write to Lord, if you put the letter, I can write to Lord Montague because I know him and ask him if he will support it. And I suspect he will.
I'm totally agree about this, but what's concerning me is the time element. And you're stressing that things are moving fast. How fast can we get this letter together?
Well, look, we're talking to different parties and trying to get an agreement. This isn't, no. This, I just think we can get rolling with that now, okay? If we can agree, we will try and put together a letter that the parish council will sign. That's all I'm asking tonight. Look, this is not something that is going to be achieved before the liquidator's deadline on the 1st of May. Not at all, definitely not. But we should try and do everything that we can do as quickly as we can do. And I just think it's something we could just agree to cross tonight. So I didn't want to wait till meeting one and take this.
If we write the letter, you could then send a copy to Ackland, a copy to HVHA, I could send a copy to Montague. Actually, would they be happy to write your support on the letter?
Yeah, we've already.
And tributes.
Yeah, I've started preparing one then into feedback soon. When we tweet. But yeah, I'm happy to put mine into straight away.
Okay, so who's going to write the letter?
Well, I'm very happy to have an initial draft, but obviously just circulate it to you and you can add in your thoughts.
Yeah, no, look, we get talking about.
Okay, fine. That's that. We're much of the time. Is that okay? I'll draw something up, circulate it,
Yeah.
and we'll go from there.
That's good.
The second point is Councillor Alex Willing, the leader of Southampton City Council, has expressed twice his support, strong support for the ferry. And on BBC South Show on Sunday, it actually gave us a clue as to why. That his parents and grandparents are from this area, and he as a boy used to get by the ferry, and they love the ferry. And he stated that he believes in the ferry. Now, I know that people are cynical about this, it's election time, he's a Labour politician, but I think that there could be value in us, because if in us the queue, got the transcript of what he said. We should be very open to write to him. Thank you. We're so glad to hear that you see the bank of the ferry. Now that the government has decided that we're joining with your authority as part of a unitary authority, and you've said, and you expressly said that was the impetus for looking at the ferry. Will you talk to us? Just keep it very, very simple. Don't ask for anything. Don't ask for money. What he likes, of course, is he willing to put his money where his mouth is.
So just the idea of expression and express your engagement in dialogue.
yeah, it is. I know that Malcolm got a no a year ago from Southampton Council, as it did from Hampshire Council and from NFDC. But that was then. This is now, and we have the unitary authority that's being created. It's an obvious opportunity to link up. Our communities are going to be linked to their authority.
Yeah.
Why don't we link them by the shortest possible route? The geography is never going to change. It's always going to be 11 miles by road and less than 1 mile by sea. That is never going to change. And that is the golden nugget, which is why the high ferry isn't an activism. It's something that will exist again. So I think that we should simply write, as a council, to the chair, you could write to Anthony's, noting, just simply that, noting his comments, saying thank you so much. We are exploring every opportunity. Could we discuss this with you? He actually replied to him, this would be willing to discuss. Nothing may come of this, but it's so simple to do. And ultimately, I think we are going to need that new unitary authority to recognise the ferry is just a floating bus.
Yeah.
If you took the view that you did not subsidise public transport services, you would lose tens of thousands of trains and buses all over the country. The ferry is just a bus that doesn't have any needs.
I'm not trying to close it down here because the website was only short movements left and there's just 2 more people to speak. So, yeah. So, Councillor Jones?
Can we add to the list of letters? I drafted to Alistair Welch asking him, given that if Red Planning Control will continue to control the town key area, what assurances can Associated Bishop Boards give us that if there is community interest, ferry or however we end up doing it, or taxi service, that they will still give access to London over there and at what cost?
Very good.
Okay, you're going to draft that?
I'll drop that.
Cheers.
Just to say, I support the principle absolutely of the letter. The politician, the leader of Council of the Water, has publicly supported our ferry and said he would like it. That's a good enough reason for us to engage. He might regret that. However, I would like us to go down the route of partnership working, shared interests, everything that we mentioned earlier. I don't want us necessarily to push the LDR point as much, just purely to say that we are clearly linked just by water to benefit you as much as it benefit us.
Thank you.
Follow that route as opposed to the other at the moment contentious progress. You don't see that route.
Yeah, well, Ben's kind enough to draft a letter, we'll circulate it and see if anyone wants to add to it. Councillor Clark, last person to speak.
Right, I've just been in touch with I was in touch with Wymer Council. They have a ferry that goes to Nottingham. That ferry is due to finish on the 15th of April this year. It's a 40-minute journey by car. It's a 10-minute journey by ferry. Normally about 35 passengers each way. So the similarities are fundamental. Lancashire County Council have been much more engaged with Wyre Council to try and find a resolution to that particular thing. I've suggested that we keep in touch with them and they keep in touch with us because they are looking for alternative ways that they can use to fund it. And I think the mirror image of that ferry service, which has been running since 1840 without a break, all the way through the Central has meant that they had a lot of experience which we could jointly share. So when I spoke to the councillor up there, he was sad to hear about similarity between ours, but he said that they haven't filled it yet, but they are worried because there's no additional tender coming forward, which is why Lancashire County Council are looking for alternative streams of income. And I wonder whether that might help Alan in providing an alternative view.
Councillor Clark.
Good question, members. As we, the council decided to write these letters, do we still need an urgent working group meeting next week?
I think they do anyway, just because, even if it's short, just because it's pivotal next week. And there'll be more questions that arise, and the things to think that we finalise the letters. I still think it's worth it. And there's other things as well I'm going to go into now that we should raise, I think.
Okay, Councillor Clark, you've made a point, would you like to?
Well, I think supply, if you left it till after Thursday, we would know which tends to come in to the administrators,
Okay.
which may give us more.
That's a good idea.
If you will fine.
Yeah, we can absolutely, it's not for email then, I mean, not, yeah.
There's no working group, or wasn't there working group, project next week?
Which day you suggested? Mark?
Well, they suggested that if I spoke to Conrad late Thursday, they would have an answer.
So the working group has to be Friday.
So we,
You do Friday. Actually, that'd be.
Well, I did read TBC for it later.
You jump on Teams,
Yeah, in certain time of the day, you know.
put it on the screen.
That's May.
The time is actually, it's time actually.
My,
One, after the two,
Okay, that's the next Friday, 9 till
10,
9 till 10, and
should be about 1:30 or 2:30.
I'm doing it Friday.
you can't do it.
Okay, I'm not going to the market.
There's an interview then, it's not,
It's not viable to keep
I
people.
don't think it's viable next Friday, so therefore it won't be next week because of, you won't have the information for nine.
No, probably the following week then early.
Tuesday might be,
Tu-
if we're trying to do
Tuesday.
something now.
Right, we shall, you can choose,
you can choose the fifth now.
It will be Tuesday.
And if you quite ask what version is that?
That's the only day you have the,
If it's after the first, which is what we're going to do.
It doesn't have to be on the chamber, does it? Because it's an informal, you could do it by Teams.
yeah, you'll get something a bit.
I dropped in the morning.
We'll be in touch.
In the morning.
Right, we'll be in touch.
Correct.
Very rich and slowly.
how do you just that's me then.
I think they're better last
Right, thank you folks. So, okay, we're going on, we're now, you probably lost where we are on the agenda, so I'll just remind you, go back to item number 6, which is report by county district members. I'm not being sarcastic when I say this, it is underlined, and we have them brief. We have had your written reports, so really all we need is anything that's additional to that. I think that's it.
Yeah, actually, thank
It's actually.
you. Cheers.
An easy point here. I've sent out the report to members. Have you got any questions on my county living? To say so, I'm happily not, it's not very big anyway. Anyone got any questions?
Almost, I was nice, gone. Councillor Dan. I've got others to answer to my. Thank you very much, Councillor Dan. Councillor. Oh, okay, Councillor Wade.
Did you receive my report I sent?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
I've got something to add to mine for district law. Alright, well, I have, because this came out, it says out that I had to attend the LBL meetings. And at 2 o'clock. And there's 3 things that are really important to make. The first thing is about governance of the new authority. The original idea of 3 members of the division is now not necessarily the view of everybody. There is a possibility to go to district wards and have the same reckoning, which means there will be 6 in Highland Division, because 2 in each district ward. But that's not definite yet, because it won't be final unless the county elections are. The county council has had a view on this in the future. So it could be county divisions, it could be district boards. They actually, but the important thing, the idea of 82 councillors in the new council was to state it will be after the people do boundaries, of course. And application on it, but they're key profession. There will be a boundary commission involvement at some stage in the future for the new unitaries.
But 4 years.
But it could be longer than that, but they weren't specified, because there's boundary changes all over the nation in this plan. That's one. Secondly, the issue also we're looking at parish councils. This is why I support this council. I think I reported, like I mentioned last time, there was a view that all elections can take place at the same time. So we have next year shadow elections, but 1 year to set up the council, and the council will run the new unit for 4 years, which takes it, and we have in 2028, we have the mayoral elections, which will 4 years. So that will come at the same time as the next unitary elections. And the parish elections, we're going to run for 5 years, so that the next parish election, all of it happens in 2032. To get it right. Well, it now turns out some parishes aren't like us, and they elect in thirds, which I wasn't aware of that. Yeah. Anyway, so that this now is all in mix. They're not sure how they're going to do it. There will definitely be a parish election next year, but whether it's for 4 years or 5 years, I suspect it probably will be 5 years. District council sat down and they talked about what they're trying to do. So I raised the question to them all: what's the end game of all these work streams? Now, for example, and I used the example of waste. What's the end game for waste in the long run? Is it going to be what we're trying to achieve? Same level of service to our customers, residents? Are we trying to achieve jobs for our team to make sure that the response was silence? I talked around it an hour later, we haven't really got that yet. So that was the problem, because they're working with all these other authorities starting to work, but they haven't actually got a vision they want to achieve from it, what it could look like. It turns out Southampton initially didn't attend very many of the gatherings over certain aspects of it, though Eastleigh have started going now. Southampton seems to be on board with it. And the thing we were talking about, Alex, earlier, and when we forget, Hampshire County Council's going, LFDC is going, but so is Southampton City Council is going as well. That council is going to be abolished, the same as all the others, and there'll be a total new unit. So there's a lot of work going on. LFDC are trying to understand what they won't be able to do in the future, because they've got 2 work streams now. 40% of the district goes one way, 60% the other. So they are in an organisational bit. I didn't say it in certain words, but there's a lot of work to do. And there will be a time, and I'll raise the issue where, and this is particular for members, some of the things the district should be doing as well, just because they haven't got people to do it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wade. That fits nicely into Councillor item 11, actually. So we'll do that later. In case there's any other inputs. So we can just summarise it. It's based off there's known unknowns, unknown knowns, and known unknowns. Thank you. So we move to item 7, which is report from members serving on outside bodies. Are there any members serving on outside bodies?
Councillor Harrison. Just a quick one on the Water Community Fund is now running. Its fund is about 11.9 million, just over. It did go up to 12, but it's been sort of thing depending on what Trump does. But it seems to have settled about just below the top.
I'll sleep soundly tonight now. So, right. Any other reports from outside bodies? Thank you. That's that done. So I do believe this means councillors to take brief questions from councillors. The floor is open. Councillor Harrison.
This one for you, Chairman, which you probably want to defer to the officers. What signage do we have with regard to dog walking on areas of ours public playing? I'm thinking, for example, of the Army Navy Field Centre Road. because it would appear that since Forestry England have started to charge car parking, I know somebody went there on Tuesday, which is the day after, and said the car park was absolutely full, and there were about 50 people there walking their dogs. I said, well, because the forestry bit there is the dog walk. I don't know what restrictions there are on fields, but they were let dogs running free all over playing fields, which I don't consider to be right. So, I don't know what signs you can
I will be fair to the officers on this.
Yeah.
So short. So sure.
Yeah.
So the signage is that to keep people off pitches.
There's a sign saying that.
Yes, but the pitches aren't actually up and running at the moment. So when it's a pitch, sorry, it's going to be complicated. When there's a pitch, there's a piece to keep the dogs off. The dogs should be under control as well.
Okay, well, it's simply about 50 people there and dogs are running around free.
We can ask our to take a look.
I think if we have the access, it isn't necessary. We have a bigger sign that you can. Can we? Because it's not fair on people like you. I mean, I know it's fair on playing fields, but it's not fair if people are exercising their dogs.
So, yeah.
I thought it might be saying, I'm going to let you a wreck. You know, this is what we do.
Not there's anything else anywhere else, but of course, this could be a consequence of what's happened.
It's just because of forestry, car park, which people find something else.
We'll definitely ask the access, and the maintenance team will soon notice if there's an increase of dog mess. So,
but the dog walk route is actually the forest.
There is one around there as well.
Any other questions?
That's not much. If I said, I share your concerns about that. I have actually witnessed that and seen the sign and seen people. This was actually months ago. And people seem to be ignored. And it might be that there's certainly entrances to the sign is actually where the car park is. The Champions is the only sign I've seen. I don't think there's one as you walk in from the centre of Hyde. But it might be worth exploring as a signage. Because if you've got young children, you don't want that's an open space for your children to play, not for dogs on the loose.
Yes, right. Thank you. That's the work.
Can I add one to that question? Recently, NFPC, there was complaints to me, which I followed up with NFPC about the bin collecting. It was very poor weather, the ground was very marshy, and etc., etc. Did that get resolved because they suggested they're going to move the bins to a place that's
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've actually moved in yet,
Right.
but they are planning to move bins.
Yeah.
It's not just there, it's a number of locations.
Right.
As soon as we have share the
We've got to lose the number of bins.
No, you won't lose it.
Right.
Well, it's a district bin. Sorry, that one sure is a national power bin.
Right.
But no, we won't lose it, but the location may change that we can actually get to it. And you probably noticed.
Is that the one if you come down Shore Road, there's a frightening corner?
It's in the bog, we'll go to the state.
Oh, right, okay.
So you probably noticed even through Highland, they've started changing the type of bins they've got.
Right,
So
yes.
they're all these larger ones
Yeah,
that contain wheat bins, which
yeah.
empties.
Right.
That's what we're trying to get away.
Oh, I
Obviously, it's the actual physical empty the bin.
Right.
And waste.
Right, and that was because they couldn't get the vehicle in to be able to pick the things up. And a wheelbarrow suggested by Councillor Webster, which is a great idea.
Right. Any more questions? So we can consider that item closed. Thank you. The question, item 11, I do believe, to my knowledge, Councillor Wade answered that earlier. Are there any other inputs on LGR that people, Councillor Wade, the other Councillor Wade?
Just briefly, reports into resources and transformation, but NFTC's officers have been tasked split by responsibility for different work streams about planning for handing over new services. And obviously, this was reported to us slightly ahead of the announcement, so that can be doubled up. But obviously, they every people responsible for each area that we expect them to do, and split about how they split the service, about how they manage it, engage with the authorities that they're now partnered with. And that was presented to Resources in March, and obviously since then that work will now double and be extra complicated. But that is the ongoing response by the day-to-day officers.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Right, so I do believe that wraps item up by
Just what this is really is, as far as saying what to space. I am reliably informed that some of these decisions will, which is one bit unnecessary, will come about after the local elections or chancellor elections are over. By the 29th of May was the date that was found about in the slides that we'll know more about governance arrangements and that's some of the issues about how long the pay councils are going to do with this. But after the elections are over, these will start to become pretty rapid because each area has to set up a committee and guidance for it's just this necessary, actually, a certain committee that will help work, composed of members that, for example, this is quite important. There will be one NFTC councillor, one from Chester Valley, and two. So it works out an equal number. I think it works out an equal number of Southampton City councillors, Hampshire and NFTC. Yeah, it's probably 4 and 4. 2 district councillors, 2 county councillors, a district councillor from Ireland, and a district councillor from. Oh, that's all right. Yeah, two district councillors, maybe 3. Borough councillors, sorry. 1 from New Forest, 1 from Waterside, 1 from Chester Valley, 4 county councillors, and 8 Southampton City councillors. And this is all the committee that will guide how this part of the forest works. There'll be a similar one there, and these are appointees. And they start the ball with the organisation to setting up the channel. There then is an SCO order coming out about this October time, which will then put the kibosh on NFDC spending and capital then and revenue over £100,000. Just because that's without agreement with the Shadow Authority. The Shadow Authority will then set up first year the new council. That's quite cool. Some of that data, the logistics of that will happen quite rapidly once the county election is happening. Thank you.
Right, so I do believe that wraps up item number 11. On to item 12, which is data protection. So A is to consider and approve the data protection policy, which was in your pack. Yeah. Okay, so can I ask someone to approve? Second, all in favour? Thank you. Similarly, to consider and approve the data breach policy, which was in the pack. Can I ask someone to, unless any questions, propose? Second, approve? Thank you. To note that the data order has taken place, so this is just one item. So, has everyone noted that the data order has taken place? Noted, thank you very much. And this is to receive details of data protection GPR training, which is available to members and officers attached. Does everyone see that?
There's an opportunity there, members, if any of you will have done the training for the district, I'm sure, or in the workplace. But if any member would like GDPR data protection training, can you let Mel or Deborah know by the 1st of May, and we will book you. It's an online thing, and you can take it when you want. All we need to do is pay for it to be done. You'll get the authorization email, and then you can sit virtual training at the time it's given to you. More information is a sheet in there. If not, give me a ring. Or alternatively, let me know by the 1st, so we can book you and
yeah, and this might be a point to raise as well. There is other training available for parish councillors. So if you know of a course or if you think there's an area that would need some instruction here, we can contact the clerk and ensure it comes out.
Absolutely.
It's in the correct place. Absolutely. We have a budget for it, I'm saying because we've got a budget to spend it, what I'm saying is, the money's there, make use of it for it to improve efforts. Okay, we're now moving on to, that's item 12 finished. We're now moving on to item 13, which is to receive the bank reconciliation for March. Right, are there any questions related to this? Anyone propose that we accept this? Opposed, second, all those in favour? Thank you. To approve the paid expenditure for March and tax. No, do we have any questions? Certainly, Councillor Webster.
Yeah, just 3 quick questions. I don't really anything. I'm not asking any exposure, but I just don't kind of like to understand. I've looked at the payments. £2,406 on a Western Honda Moss brush postage. Sure, there's a good reason for it, but I don't know what it is. 1,000 in time.
So, if you let them answer each of
Sorry, exactly that pre-code.
Yeah, so the moss brush is a very strange name. It's like a giant mower with mechanical brushes at the front, and it literally does that. It removes moss. And this is part of the council's ongoing commitment to reduce using chemicals. So it's there for tennis courts, hard surfaces, and some of our areas.
Do we own it? Because you said, oh, it's just purchased by us or tool hire, but that doesn't mean.
Yeah, no, we bought it from that.
Okay. The second one was £1,952. The Bircham Construction Limited, and it's some sort of resolution payment.
Yeah, what happened is a retainer then, when they did actually did the refurbishment of the workshop, and so what, for a period of 12 months, and to their completion, we hold a retainer in case there is defects. All it is us clearing that debt now. The retainer works fine, guarantees being served, and we pay them.
So it's fine.
Yes, retainer.
Thank you. And then the final one is there were a few payments related to complete security for Keys Cut.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what happened there?
The knock on the front door, this one, was original. It was people having trouble getting in because the lock was all frayed. So
I see. So
it has a new lock, and as you can imagine, there's quite a few replacing keys.
Yeah. And finally, I'm glad to see that who was it who went on the roster playground?
So that's 2 of the maintenance team, the 2 newest recruits, which are Adam and Jim.
Thanks.
As we kind of hold their IPL qualification.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
It is great.
Right, so, having answered those questions, can I answer the question again? Are we prepared to approve the paid expenditure?
Brilliant. Take place.
And to receive the variance report before variance reports at the end of March 2006. So this is just, we have to go to just next.
Yeah, to receive. Yes, I'll put you in just a minute. If you've got any questions.
Say, are there any questions about the variance report at the end of March? Councillor Wade?
Just to say, if you've got any concerns for it, I'm happy, or otherwise, it might be relatively good reading.
It's good for us. What it shows you, it's probably a bit more information this time. It's very small, I do apologise, it's just the way it's copied. But once we've made the earmarked reserves transfers that we agreed at the last meeting, it looks like we will have an understanding for 25, 26. I will be finishing, finalising the figures, and then I'll be talking to the chair and vice chair briefly initially to get ideas of where the council would like to do in the outturns. Okay. And that will go to council in May. But I need to speak to the chair and vice chair briefly, because that's the future going forward to the council.
Just confirm that we accept the variance report?
Yeah, we should also note it's very financial management.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Thank you. Final one on finance, to receive the Q4 investment report.
It just gives you information in where you've actually interested in the last financial year.
Has everyone received that yet? Thank you very much. So,
It's very much so. Right? Then I used to, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And just before you go too far to go, there is a little bit to finish off. End of year. So the external audit for 25-26 is to confirm that there were no conflicts of interest between this parish council chair or the clerk with the BDO LLP.
All that's happened is, you really do work for BDO, you really do have relatives there, but therefore we don't have conflict of interest between them. That's what it's happened.
No. And okay, external audit for the year 25-26 to agree that the notice period for the exercise of public rights will be announced on the 2nd of June 2026, with the inspection period commencing on the 3rd of June 2026 and ending on the 4th of July 2026. That's where most of the public can come in and has to see the books, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Right. And finally, the internal audit to note and ratify the following internal audit process in 2024. Lighter Touch was appointed as the council's internal auditor for the 2027 financial year. That the scope of the work that is attached to the undertaking is effective for the council and that Lighter Touch is independent of the council.
It's a little bit fun, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I do believe that is everything. Again, I'm sure we'd all have to wish Mal good luck on some.